Hey everyone, welcome to the NFL edition of the Daily Fantasy Flex podcast for October 5th, 2016, brought to you by FantasyLabs. I'm Matthew Freedman, the editor-in-chief, and I'm joined by recurring regulars Adam Levitan and Peter Jennings on Twitter at Adam Levitan and CSURAM88. They are recurring, not returning, because they're like diseases. They just always pop up. And also joining the show is Matt Brown at MattBrownM2. He's a co-founder of FantasyWired.com and a host and a producer of multiple fantasy sports TV and radio shows, including Fantasy Relevant on the Fantasy Sports Network. Matt, how's it going?
Doing well, man. Doing well. I'm a little bit depressed because now we are officially kind of a quarter of the way through the season, so it's kind of starting to hit home here.
Yeah, we are a quarter of the way through. So basically what you see now is sort of what you get with all the teams. 2015 data isn't really quite as relevant anymore. How was week 4 for you?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I've been doing really well in cash, and I've been cashing in GPPs, but I'm kind of doing the thing you don't want to do where I have one of those kind of like 12th percentile lineups. So you cash, but you're never really in it. So I've got to figure out how I can tweak a play here or there and actually get really in the mix of stuff. But cash has been going really, really well. So that's good. Profitable weeks is profitable weeks, right?
Exactly. Levitan, Peter, how was stuff for you guys in week 4?
I mean, Pete was living the Smiz life up in Napa, so I don't know how he did monetarily wise, but I'm sure he had a good week regardless.
Oh yeah, I had a good time up in Napa Valley, and my best friend actually got married, so I had to give the best man speech, which I needed a lot of liquid courage for, then I had to make lineups on the West Coast, and DraftKings was pretty neutral for me, but fortunately on FanDuel I played Crabtree and cash, so got real fortunate there that he worked out.
Yeah, that's definitely a great call on Crabtree there. Well, in terms of skill game propositions, Adam had another good week going 3-2. Levitan, you did most of your damage against Chris Raybon. You predicted that Dak would not be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and you predicted that Forte would not have over 20 DK points. I was there with you on the Forte prop. Raybon ended up having a sub-Silva week at 1-4. TJ Hernandez was 2-1. I was an impressively undefeated 1-0. So now Adam is firmly in the all-time lead at 10-6. Pete is 6-6. I am 6-5. Pete, what is your plan to get above 500 like your other two good-looking co-hosts?
Well, there's going to be some Andrew Luck props, so I'll probably be long Andrew Luck yet again. And then hopefully I can get some Bronco calls in there or something like that to get on the board. Yeah, that's what I'm going to need something against Levitan. Levitan's going to have to give a hot take early in the week.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of early in the week for me to get too fiery with the takes. You know what I mean? But I do think it's a good spot for Andrew Luck, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I'm not going to. Pete's in a good spot here where he's going to have to go real high with his Andrew Luck props because this is a really good spot.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to have some skill game prop action later. Matt, I hope that you're ready to place some 6-packs of Coors Light on the line. But let's get into the.
No, I'm never one to wager. I'm not that guy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You play golf just for the fun of it. All right. Quick reminder on the pod, we're going to be focusing on roster construction and game theory. So for previews of each game as well as positional breakdowns, check out our NFL dashboard, which comes out every Thursday. Okay. First things first. And Matt, let's start with you. Who are the chalky guys that you were thinking about locking into your lineup at this point? The guys who are chalky and you feel comfortable with as a part of your cash game core?
Yeah, I'm typically a pay down at quarterback guy, but this week, I mean, Brady going up against Cleveland here. I mean, we saw them give up 19 to Carson Wentz, 21 to Joe Flacco, 25 plus to Ryan Tannehill, 18 to Kirk Cousins. I mean, these are guys that obviously are nowhere close to where Tom Brady is. And I mean, Browns don't really get after the quarterback. They're one of the bottom in the league as far as sacks go. We've got a over 28-point implied total. So, I mean, there's a lot of things adding up here that I really like. Now, there's a lot of people, at least early in the week, I think are saying that, well, this pretty much lines up as a blunt game here. But, I mean, I don't know. It seems to me they're going to kind of unleash the hounds here and let Tom Brady kind of do his thing. And I understand it's a 10.5-point spread in this one. But I feel like maybe if it gets out of hand, it will be Tom Brady has already done what he needs to do here. So I'm pretty high on Tom Brady this week as far as cash quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you could say about Brady and Belichick is that they're not afraid to run up the score. And maybe some of the narrative street comes true in this case where they say, we're angry about the suspension and we're going to beat the Browns 50-0. I don't know if I'm one to necessarily go down that road, but I think that it's maybe has some merit there. I don't know. Pete is the king of narrative street. Do you think Patriots might try to run up the score here because they're angry?
Oh, I'm a buyer on the first narrative street, which is angry Tom Brady's a good Tom Brady. Definitely buying that. And then also, Belichick is known for running up the score. They throw all the time in spots where you would never think they'd be throwing. So I think that Brady's an excellent option, and certainly you want exposure to the Patriots offense. I mean, Blunt, Edelman, I think those would be other pretty popular plays.
Yeah. Yeah, I know this is probably a bad take, but I feel like Ben Roethlisberger might be in a better spot than Tom Brady. So I'm not saying Ben's going to outscore him, but just from a pure matchup perspective at home against the Jets, who just are so atrocious against the pass and so good against the run. I mean, I think that the spot for Ben is pretty awesome too.
For the pay down at quarterback, guys, do you think by the end of the week we're going to start hearing Brian Hoyer's name come up, like against the Colts here, 47.5 point total, only 5,500 on DK, 6K on FanDuel? Do you think that's something we're going to start hearing?
Yes.
Yeah, threw for over 300 yards last week. This is an easier matchup probably. So at that price, I certainly think he'll be a popular play, especially since right now there's not a ton of value. Adam, is there any other chalk guys that you think we should be looking at for cash?
For quarterback or at other positions? I mean, at quarterback right now, I have Brady, Ben, Rodgers, Luck, and Hoyer as likely the most owned. Overall, though, at all positions, my initial run had Jordan Howard by far as the most owned. And, I think people are going to want to play Antonio Brown at all costs, and I think that they should. It's just, you already mentioned the lack of value. It's going to be somewhat tough to get Antonio Brown in at 9,800 comfortably unless something comes up during this week. So, yeah, I think right now I'd say Jordan Howard is probably, for me at least, projected to be the biggest chalk on the entire slate.
I'm definitely behind that. That's a guy I think will be very heavily owned. The running back position in general could be interesting with some of those cheap guys if you have to go with James White. Latavius Murray, I thought, would be the play here at 4,200, but he's just not getting the touches.
Yeah.
Oakland's in a really good spot, but you can't play him even at a depressed price. McKinnon is another one, I think. Where do you think his ownership will end up being?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are going to find themselves needing the salary, and people saw McKinnon play really well. And I don't think it's even a hot take to say that McKinnon is better than Adrian Peterson at this point in their respective careers. So imagine getting Adrian Peterson at 4K. In a home game. I think McKinnon's a fine play. Obviously, you're going to lose the goal line work to Matt Asiata, but when you pay 4K for a guy, that's what you get. So yeah, I think McKinnon will be in 13, 16, 15% range at least.
Are we too worried about the running back situation for Terrence West at 4,800? I mean, I kind of when I was making some lineups, and I hated it every time I clicked it, but it was kind of just like you're saying, to try to find some value at 4,800. It seemed like it fit.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I mean, I think people are very, very excited about Kenneth Dixon, and maybe with good reason, but not good reason in week 5. This dude has hardly played, literally was out for almost the entire offseason, all the preseason. So think that a 4th-round rookie is just going to step right in, I don't really see it. I think Terrence West, who got 80% of the RB touches last week, probably gets 80% of the RB touches again.
Yeah, he has a chance to go over the bonus and get some rushing touchdowns. Washington has not been good against the run. I like that call a lot. And I definitely think Antonio Brown will be the chalkiest receiver. And you got to get him in, it feels like.
Any other thoughts for receivers? Any other guys besides Antonio? Matt, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I almost start with Jarvis Landry, and this is maybe an LSU bias. I'm a big LSU guy or whatever. But, I mean, the guy dating back to last season, he's got double-digit targets in 11 of his last 13 games. I mean, every game this season, minimum of 7 receptions in all 4 games this year. That Miami run game is, who the hell knows what's happening there. And plus, I mean, the Titans are pretty stout against the run anyway. So, to me, it just seems like, Jarvis Landry at 7K on DK, 7,500 on FanDuel is one of those guys that I feel pretty comfortable with slotting him in and knowing that I'm going to get double-digit targets here and likely, 7+ receptions.
I've got people play Pryor again a little bit too, and I also think Edelman will be a really popular play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is it nuts to consider Robert Woods at 3,900 against LA? I mean, like 10 targets last week, 8 targets the week before. Is that crazy?
Yeah, we were talking about him early today. Like, I don't think it's that crazy. He's a guy that I can honestly say I've never rostered in DFS and never drafted in season long, but it's the first time for everything, man.
10 targets last week. I mean, yeah, gotta pay attention to that. I've never had him before. I've seen other.
I mean, me neither. It's like 3,900. I see 3,900. I'm like, that's free. You know, it's almost free.
Yeah, he has a very checkered history without Watkins. He's had either some big games or some games where he's just totally destroyed lineups. So he will be a very interesting call, kind of either way, whichever way you go there. Let's talk about some of the chalky players that we would be looking to pivot away from, and then some of the leverage and pivot plays we would be considering. And Adam, let's start with you.
Yeah, so, I mean, Jordan Howard going on the road, his price has come up to 5,200. I think I'm more okay with that than Melvin Gordon on the road. I don't know. I mean, Melvin Gordon's price come up to 7K. He's like literally 500 less than Le'Veon Bell. He's more expensive than C.J. Anderson, more expensive than LaShawn McCoy, more expensive than Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, and Melvin, right. And like, you know, this is a dude whose production has been propped up by very short rushing touchdowns over the last couple of weeks. So I think people are going to play him, but not at the same rate they were before because he's 7K now. Like if you're paying Antonio Brown, it's going to be really hard to also play Melvin Gordon. So I think that might keep him down in like the 15% range. But yeah, I'm okay with moving away from Melvin Gordon.
I think that C.J. Anderson might end up being a somewhat popular play. The only thing is roster construction, given that he is pretty expensive. But I imagine that people will look at Denver's team total, which is actually really high right now, and think, okay, C.J. Anderson's the passing game could have a lot of leverage as well, especially seeing who's going to be the quarterback. I know it's early in the week, but we'll see what happens with that quarterback position. I think either or could be a good stack with Demaryius and Emmanuel Sanders, especially Sanders, who I've been really impressed with so far this year.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon was my big guy. I mean, now that he's up to 7K, I mean, just like 19 carries for 36 yards and then like 16 for 35. It's just, and plus I have eyeballs too. I mean, he just sucks. Like you watch him play, he's horrible. So it's hard for me to, now that he's at 7K, to really roster him. And I think like now that Marvin Jones is up to like 7,600, where he's the 9th most expensive wideout, playing against Philadelphia and their number 1 rated pass defense according to DVOA. And so I think there's at least going to be some pause on my end where he was kind of a lock and load for me for the first 4 weeks of the season. But now that the price has crept up to 7,600, certainly something that I'm going to have to really take a look at.
Are there any particular wide receivers that we think it would be wise to pivot away from? I mean, I know it's sacrilege to go against Antonio Brown, but he's going to be highly owned. Maybe him, maybe any other guys out there in tournaments?
I think people are going to roster Odell Beckham, and I don't know at what rate, considering how bad he was. But I mean, Odell Beckham, people are going to say that he's due, that this is the spot, especially if the Packers don't have Sam Shields. I mean, I just think it's a different situation for Odell. I think we've talked about this on this podcast before. Like Cruz is playing well, Shepard's playing well. They have 2 tight ends who can catch the football. They had Vereen, now they have Bobby Rainey. Like it's not the same. So, I'm kind of a closet Odell Beckham hater. I've had enough of this dude, so I'm always fine moving away from him. Matt doesn't like that, I know.
Honestly, so it's funny because I actually was putting this out on Twitter last night. I was like, I'm an Odell guy, but now that like he seems like that type of guy that, I mean, I don't know, it doesn't seem like he'd be a very cool cat to hang out with, right? Yeah. Like it just doesn't seem like a very cool fella.
No.
It's a bummer too. Like, I mean, it's a bummer too because like I just don't want him to be one of those cautionary tales of a dude that like had all this talent and just can't like take it all. I mean, that was one of the things that people were, at least in Louisiana, were kind of worried about him going from, a small town in Louisiana, and then he became kind of like Mr. Thing at LSU, and then going to like the biggest sports market in the world, how he was going to be able to handle that. And it looks like right now, not very well. It looks like not very well.
No, it hasn't been good for Odell Beckham, definitely. especially on a big stage like Monday Night Football where, he got owned, which isn't that bad. Xavier Rhodes is really good. We have to at least give Xavier Rhodes credit in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think that a lot of people will play Jarvis Landry. A lot of people will play Edelman. I don't think a lot of people will play these mid to up tier receivers. I think it'll be Antonio Brown. And then those guys. So I think guys like AJ Green, even Brandon Marshall in the same game, Jordy Nelson. These are guys that will have super low ownership just with roster construction.
Yeah, I like that. Especially I think Jordy Nelson. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Freedman, are you taking notes here?
Yeah, I am.
What is it? What does this go towards? I'm curious. Like your notes are for your own lineups, or are they for like something on labs or what?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Okay, so I use them for multiple things. So one would be I already start to outline the positional breakdowns that go up on the NFL dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
Some of this is just to like make sure that I'm not like missing any players. Like I didn't just pull a bonehead move and I forgot to mention that people should play Andrew Luck or like whatever it is. But then also for skill game prop stuff that comes up later, I can sort of just really remember who it is that people like.
I see. I got you.
It just helps me remember. I'm like a perpetual nerd. Like if I could have stayed in college forever, just like taking notes from smart people saying stuff, I would have. Instead, I became the editor of a fantasy sports site. Really random. Let's move on to talking about game selection here. So really important. What are some of the GPPs that you have your eye on? And Peter, let's start with you since you are the GPP degenerate.
Oh, yeah. So I'll be firing the Wildcat super hard this week. Didn't get to play it this last week because I had the best man speech, so had to lower my GPP volume. I'm excited to get a lot of lineups out there. I also love the Millionaire Maker. I'm a sucker for that tournament. So I'll play that. I think the Slant is another really good one. I mean, I love the tournaments on DraftKings for sure.
Hey, Peter, can I get some sort of sense of what your best man speech was like? I would really like to know what a sort of like appropriately alcohol lubricated Peter Jennings best man speech looks like.
All right, so I told some stories about my buddy. So he played lead guitar and sang at Red Rocks for high school graduation, then smashed his guitar. That was badass. He also sold beer at the World Series. Also badass. There's a variety of different things with Beckman. He's just a crazy guy, a great friend. And the big thing I wanted to emphasize is he's an eternal optimist. And, a lot of people in life don't think about that enough. So let's be optimistic. Adam, that means you're going to be winning the Millionaire Maker this week. What do you think about that? And what other things do you like?
It's going to be hard for me to win the Millionaire Maker if I don't play. I'll be in the Wildcat again. I mean, I've been trying to grind the Wildcat a little bit. I think it's an awesome tournament, and I like playing against people. Like, if you notice in the Wildcat, Julio was like 17%, and in the Millie Maker, Julio was like 7%. And I think that just shows, a big difference in kind of the way people are thinking in some of the higher stakes stuff. So I like to compete in that. And then, like I always say, man, just wake up in the middle of the night. I have a premonition. I make a quick lineup on my phone, just fire it into the slant. That's just what I do. I end up, before the week's over, I have all these like weird thoughts in my head and they just all fire into the slant. So who knows, maybe one day something will come out of that and I'll win the slant or something.
Yeah, it's like the same. That's like the only one I truly grind like really hard because I've become more rate conscious the smarter I get with all this stuff, and like it's lower than a lot of the other ones. I also like the single entry tournaments, like the 9, the 27, the 50, and the 100 on DraftKings. I like those as well. Those are all like 13.5% or lower when it comes to rake. So if that's one of the things that you've kind of started to pay attention to out there, well, those are the tournaments that aren't charging you the 15%.
Matt, the single entry tournaments, just because you mentioned it here, I'd like to get your perspective on how it is that you approach those, because obviously the approach is different than it is if you are just sort of mass entering a lot of lineups, like 100 lineups at a time. How do you like to approach single entry GPPs?
So like I kind of throw I try to throw kind of a wild lineup in there, to be honest with you, because like one of the things I've noticed over at least the first 3 weeks of the season, I haven't had a chance this past week to go in and kind of really look at the lineups, but I think a lot of people just throw in maybe their 50-50, maybe their head-to-head lineups, or maybe just alter their cash lineup by a player or something like that. And so I think there's a pretty big advantage like to be had by putting in kind of a wilder GPP type lineup, even though it's only a single entry. Now, that certainly has me finishing in the, lower percentiles more times than not, because I'm just putting one lineup in there, so I don't really have a lot of bases covered. But this past week, I had Julio in the majority of my, my main tournament lineup, if you will. So I was able to do pretty well in those single entries.
Awesome stuff there. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the conventional stacks that we would be looking to use in GPPs. Matt, what are some of the pairings that you're looking at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think Peter mentioned it earlier, but I mean, or maybe it was Adam, but I like, Ben, Antonio, Le'Veon this week. I mean, I think a lot of people, if they plug those three people in, are going to look and they're going to see like they're staring down the barrel of like $4,500 left per position and maybe just abort mission right there off the get-go. And like, this is like a legit three-person stack here that has 75 plus point potential like every time they step on the field. So, I mean, for me, I didn't want to recommend something that I didn't try out. So I made at least 3 or 4 different teams that I actually really liked that had those 3 very expensive guys in there. And I think putting those super expensive guys in there is actually going to give you a different lineup construction as it is anyway, because you're going to have to kind of fill out the rest of your lineup in a different way. So I do understand that they're likely to be chalky, at least 2 of the 3. I don't know how chalky Ben will be, but I think the rest of your lineup begins to take a different shape. So it doesn't really matter that you kind of have those chalky guys in there.
Yeah, I like that. Levitan.
I think the most popular stack will be Brady Edelman for sure. I mean, I tweeted out Edelman's last 16 games with Brady. It's just absurd. He's getting 11 targets a game. He scored 10 touchdowns in that span. So everybody wants to roster Brady. Everybody wants to roster his number 1 target. And I think pretty clearly now, given the way that Rob Gronkowski has been used of late, given the way his hamstring issue has lingered, that it's going to be Edelman. So I think Brady to Edelman will be the most popular stack this week.
I think you had mentioned James White earlier. Any thoughts on throwing White into some sort of stack there?
Yeah, I didn't mention him, but I think it makes some sense in the way that as the Patriots move towards more spread with Tom Brady, towards more pass heavy with Tom Brady, that we'll see more White snaps than maybe we would have with Brissett or Garoppolo. That said, you certainly could have a lot of questions about James White's talent level and ability to really do much with those chances. So, I don't hate, James White. I think Peter mentioned him. I don't know. You like James White, Peter?
Yeah, I think James White's a fine play. I certainly do. I think he's a guy who could have a ton of catches in this game if they do end up throwing a lot and it doesn't turn into a blunt game. There's a little bit of risk there, so I think it's more of a leverage play, but I definitely like James White. The guy I actually really like on the Patriots is a little bit more leverage is Chris Hogan. Started off in the first 2 games getting some targets, looked pretty good. Didn't have much with Brissett, which makes total sense. Brissett's not going to be the guy that's going to be able to hit Chris Hogan at this point in time, but Tom Brady certainly can. So I think he'll be kind of the under-owned guy there. But the other chalk stack that I have to get in with my brand, I guess, is Andrew Luck, T.Y. Hilton. So yeah, I think that'll be right up there. I wouldn't be surprised if that was owned in a similar amount as the Brady Edelman stack.
Matt, I'd like to come back around to you because you mentioned the Pittsburgh stack. Obviously, they've done very well. They were amazing with Le'Veon back, but even before that, they had some instances where they looked pretty good. And one guy who I think is flying under the radar is Sammy Coates. He hasn't gotten a lot of targets in that offense, but he's been getting a lot of the deep targets. He has a lot of air yards. And, he's pacing for over 1,000 yards on the season. In some ways, he has been very Martavis-esque. He just hasn't scored the touchdowns that people think of that accompany those big plays. Do you have any thoughts on throwing him in there with the stack?
Yeah, so I don't really go all in on one player. I don't know exactly how you guys do your tournament stuff. I'll probably pick like 4 quarterbacks and then kind of rotate different, cores around those guys. And so I'll certainly have Coates exposure. I mean, listen, they got up so fast in this game that it was almost like Ben was just showing off as to who all he could go to and just exactly how they could spread the ball around. Antonio Brown just disappeared in the second half and whatnot. So, I think you can safely say the majority of the scoring is going to funnel through Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, and then anything that's kind of left over, I think Coates certainly has, as good of opportunity as anybody. I mean, I think Jesse James he was the hot guy there for a couple of weeks, but I think certainly Coates could fit into that kind of third receiver.
Yeah, I like Coates, and I think one thing we'll see is they're no longer using Darrelle Revis on opponent's number 1 receiver because they know he just has no shot. So they're going to put him on number 2 receiver, and if they do that, I mean, Darrelle Revis also has no shot against Sammy Coates, so I'm totally fine with that. I mean, I had a choice on the primetime slate between Victor Cruz and Sammy Coates, and ended up going with Cruz. The only point there was only like 5 points or so, but I think it was a pretty big mistake. I think I should have gone with Coates.
I went Coates on that slate, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I just wanted exposure to that game, though. Wasn't necessarily I thought it was that much better of a play. I just wanted that game over the Minnesota Giants game.
Right, yeah.
What are some of the contrarian stacks or maybe kind of more advanced stacks that you guys are looking at for Week 5, Levitan?
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind to me is Ryan Tannehill and Devontae Parker. I'm looking to get pieces of Parrish Cox. I still think Jason McCourty is a guy that can be exploited. Jarvis Landry, agree with Matt totally, probably a lock for cash for me. But I think that if you're trying to be contrarian, I mean, Devontae Parker, we know about his talent level and we know about how badly Tennessee has struggled with outside receivers. So, I think Tannehill, who people really hate, like, I don't know who people hate more, Cousins or Tannehill. Like, I tweeted a positive Kirk Cousins stat, and it was just like a firestorm in my mentions. And kind of the same thing with Tannehill. Like, people hate these dudes, but I think Tannehill has shown a pretty consistently high ceiling, so I like him a lot. I would not be opposed to Ryan Tannehill in cash. You don't save that much on DraftKings. I think it's $5,700, but if you need it, I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. And I think Jarvis Landry, who Matt brought up earlier, is also a great play. In that same price range, I think a really unique player or unique stack relative to what it should be will be Jameis Winston to Mike Evans. Obviously, that's not in all the main slates, but any slate that is included, I think that's a great opportunity. We've seen Carolina give up a ton of passing yards. Obviously, Julio torched him last week. Mike Evans gets a ton of targets, so I like that. And I don't even think this is contrarian at all, or I don't think it should be, but Derek Carr to Amari Cooper, I'm going to keep riding that. Amari Cooper has been very unlucky so far, still very long his talent. I'm going to be riding and dying with average Amari, I guess, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I definitely like that. And I guess I'm just going to hold my nose and click the button, and it sucks. But, I mean, I think I'm going to play Fitzpatrick, like, in some stacks with Marshall and even Quincy and Nunwa. Like, I mean, I expect him to get down, and he's going to throw the ball, 40, 45 times in this game. And I understand that half of those might go to the other team, but, like, at least half of them will go to Brandon Marshall or Quincy and Nunwa here. So, I mean, to me, even like a guy like Quincy Newman, like 32 targets through 4 games. I mean, 3 double-digit DraftKings point games. I mean, and that's only getting in the end zone one time. So, I mean, I think it's at least something I'll hold my nose and make some Fitzpatrick teams.
Oh yeah, no, I think a Nunwa is pretty good play.
Here's Peter. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. So Cooper and Crabtree have been targeted within the 10-yard line the same number of times. Both have been targeted 2 times. But on the whole, that's actually not that many times within a 4-game span. Seth Roberts has been targeted 3 times within the 10-yard line. Andre Holmes has been targeted 2 times. Do you think do you think if he's targeted close to the red zone at roughly the same rate, he can have some notable touchdown regression, or do you think they just need to start targeting him more closer to the goal line, and that's something that's actually going to happen?
Well, I think Crabtree is still the best option in the red zone. Crabtree is known. I think Harbaugh said he has the best hands he's ever seen. Jim Harbaugh back in the day. Watching him play, he doesn't really drop balls ever. Big target. So I think he is the guy. I think Amari Cooper still has a ton of potential. He's so explosive, such a good route runner that he should do well in the red zone. But the thing with Amari, which I'm still looking for in tournaments, is he has huge play upside. He had a 60-yard touchdown called back for stepping out of bounds week 3. He was missed in the end zone when he was wide open and made an explosive route where he basically split the safeties, and Derek Carr should never have missed him. So I think there's a ton of upside with big plays, and it could all come together in one game where he gets 2 of those plays, and that's what you need to win these tournaments. So I really like that spot for him. And yeah, it's tougher to play him in cash games now just because of the red zone attempts, but still a great tournament play.
Adam, what do you have him? Do you have him like sub 5% this week? Is there like a lot of never again guys you're expecting?
Well, this is only a first run, so we'll see. But right now, I have Amari Cooper at 2 to 4%.
Yeah, sub 5% like all day long. Like,
Yeah,
for sure.
I think people are coming to like, it's kind of become public perception or public reality now that Michael Crabtree is kind of their number one receiver, especially in the red zone. So yeah, I think you'll get Cooper pretty low, but we'll see how the week goes.
People will be chasing Crabtree a ton as well. Who do you think Verrett covers? Do you think he just splits him? That's what I'm kind of thinking at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't see much reason for Verrett to really follow anybody around given the way they play. So yeah, I think that they'd split him pretty much.
Here's a question. So we have I just want to make sure I'm right on this. So we have Houston playing Minnesota. Obviously, Xavier Rhodes, I'm imagining he's going to be on DeAndre Hopkins for a chunk of that game. What are your thoughts on Will Fuller? I mean, I know I feel like there's enough Will Fuller love on this podcast already to like last for the entire season, but I would like to get your thoughts on him because I think he could make a very intriguing play, especially with Osweiler as a very under-owned player.
Yeah, except the Vikings are legit good. You got to treat the Vikings, I think, kind of like you treat the Broncos. You just really don't want to take too many guys against them. I get it for tournaments. I've been calling Will Fuller. That's one thing I feel good about coming into the year that I was right on. Certainly was wrong on a lot of things like Latavius Murray, who was in a great spot this week that we can't play. But Will Fuller, I mean, he's got tournament upside every single time he plays. I heard a stat on Sunday night that the microchips in the shoulder pads, and he was the fastest track player of anyone in the NFL before the Sunday night game, which I think Tyreek Hill might have beat him on one of those kick returns that was turned back. But yeah, Will Fuller is just, I mean, anyone who has that kind of speed relative to everyone else, even in the NFL, always is a good tournament play.
Yeah, I mean, just to add some texture to this, and I mean, you can't make too much of a 4-game sample, but he's basically been Odell Beckham-esque in his first 4 NFL games. If we're looking at OBJ's first 4 NFL games, and granted, different circumstances, different competition, but he's been very similar, and he does have that type of potential first-round pick, great athlete. So that's something that's out there.
Oh yeah, and he crushed in hashtag preseason, so it's not just 4 weeks, it's really 8 weeks of just destroying.
Yeah, he crushed in college football DFS, which was just fantastic. It makes me so sad thinking about that.
No, it is so sad. I mean, I feel like we should have like a moment of on-air silence for college football DFS. Yeah.
In college football too, you'd be watching and he would literally be wide open by like 25 yards. Like he just would blow by guys. Like if he had them guess the wrong way even once, he was so far gone. And yeah, he still has that huge play potential and that double dip potential too with, I guess, the Texas that we saw.
Yep.
But like you said at the top, man, this Minnesota defense is no joke. Like that was something that I had to come around on because I was like, oh, okay, they're playing. I expected them to be good. I did not expect them to be this good. And man, they are definitely really, really good.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've dragged Sean Hill and Sam Bradford to a collective 4-0 record. I mean, that's pretty impressive, on its own. Let's get to, I think, the bold call portion of the show. Last week we were 2 for 6. I think that's decent if we're being, actually bold. And speaking of Will Fuller, Levitan nailed the Will Fuller call with 2 touchdowns. So 2 weeks in a row, you've gone for the double touchdowns. Jordy in week 3, Will Fuller in week 4. So let's see what we get this week. Each of you give us one bold real football call and then one bold DFS call. And Peter, let's start with you.
Okay, so this is kind of tough for me. I'm not really sure, but I think the Lions might beat the Eagles here for my real football call. I think a lot of people are really high, obviously, on Carson Wentz and the Eagles and how well they're doing, but a rookie quarterback still getting told how great he is. I think it's a possible letdown spot for them. The one thing that makes me really nervous about that call is I respect the hell out of Eagles D. I've thought they're hashtag good since the beginning, and even against Pittsburgh, I was a little nervous about playing, Antonio and guys against him, D'Angelo. So I'm nervous for that call, but I think this is a spot where Detroit could play well.
I like that. Do you have a DFS call?
DFS call, I'm going to go with Emmanuel Sanders 2 touchdowns. That's my DFS. I'm going biased in Broncos, but one question for Adam too. Do you think Trufont's going to basically shadow Demaryius?
No, I mean, I think they prefer not to use Trufant in a shadow role. Like mostly they use him on side, except when it's very, very clear that they want him to shadow. So no, I think that he'll just play his side.
Okay.
Can I ask you a quick question here? Because I don't think we've really mentioned Julio. Obviously a dangerous play, I think, in that one, he's going against Denver. So obviously that's just, it seems as if any wide receiver against Denver, it's smart to be hands off on that guy. But then also his ownership in a very bizarre way could be very high among the fishies who just know that he had this outrageous game last week. So it seems like there could be like double danger with this guy. At the same time, he's Julio Jones, and you know, you never know. He might have low ownership. I'm just curious on thoughts about him, if he's a guy that you just totally want to take your hands off of for this week.
All right, Broncos take. I got to take this one. You fade players against the Broncos. Don't make it harder than it actually is. It's just what you have to do. Julio's going to have higher ownership. Just think about the fish right now. Yeah. They're on him against, obviously, in New Orleans, which, you know, you should be. Everyone was on him in those slates. So they're on him. Then they miss on him after he has a bad game. Then he goes completely off. Now they're ready to get back on the Julio bandwagon. It's the classic, like,
tail chase.
Exactly. And this is the worst spot. Also, Julio much better indoors on the turf. That's something that's proven. And going into Denver is like literally – I can't think of a worse matchup for Julio Jones. Literally, I think this is the stone cold worst matchup. So if you want to play a big price and chase with the other people, go for it. But that's something I would never do.
I'd say that's another bold call right there. No, obviously not a bold call.
I'll love to take under on Julio Jones points if you want to take the over for a proposition.
I would need to look and see what we're projecting him at right now, and then cut that number in half, and then maybe I'll think.
We're projecting him at 22 DraftKings points right now. I'll take the under on that all day.
Oh yeah, well I mean I would too. That's I feel like that's very high. Levitan, bold calls.
Yeah, okay. I'll say that for the NFL call that the Los Angeles Rams show up and beat the Bills by at least 2 touchdowns. I think the Bills kind of had their Super Bowl last week going to New England and winning, and now they go across the country and kind of a letdown spot for them. And I think Ty Gurley, who I've been very vocal about how I thought Ty Gurley was like a egregiously overrated fantasy player, but I think he gets off here. But I won't die in my DFS call there. I'll also say DFS call, I'll say Devontae Parker. So 2 weeks ago I had Jordy Nelson 2 touchdowns last week, Will Fuller 2 touchdowns, and this week I'll say Devontae Parker 2 touchdowns.
3 in a row, baby.
3 in a row.
Write that one down.
The turkey.
All right, Matt, what about you?
All right, real football. I'm not going to go ahead and call the upset, but I will say that the Browns keep it uncomfortably close, especially for Patriots fans, if you're a Patriots fan. And I think that it comes down to like a last possession field goal for the Patriots to win. So on a 10.5-point spread, not even coming close to covering that. So I'll probably have some Browns action in this one. And then for my DFS call, Jerick McKinnon is a top 6 running back in PPR sites against the Texans this week.
Interesting.
Right. I like that. I'm going to take some of the Patriots action here. I'm going to buy some of the Tom Brady narrative. We need to come up with something reasonable here for a skill prop.
Yeah, let's take the actual line. It's 10.5.
Sure, done.
Okay. I'll do it. I'll take the 10.5, the plus 10.5.
Yeah, I want to be on the Peter Jennings side of that, so I'm also taking the Patriots side there.
Yeah, I don't have a play in this game. I mean, I would never, ever in a million years take a road favorite. It's like against what I believe in and everything in life. So, but I've been burned so many times by this angry Brady narrative because I obviously don't believe in it as a rational human. So I don't know. I don't have a play in that game.
He's also could be rusty. I mean, he hasn't been in the facility. There's a lot of things working against him.
Gronk is banged up.
I get it. I'm just buying it.
Hey, don't start hedging. Don't start hedging right now.
I'm not trying to hedge. I'm just saying that's reality. Like, trust me, I get the downside, but I'm buying the narrative.
His whole life is one big hedge.
That's right. What about that was really funny.
They don't call him the big head for nothing.
What about we had Big Ben versus Andrew Luck. We were talking about that a little bit. Or Big Ben versus Tom Brady. You wanted Big Ben, right?
Yeah, give me like +2 on DK points.
No, I can't. Now I'm doubling down. All right, fine.
I'll do it versus Luck. I'll do it versus Luck if you give me +2.
Oh, man. I like Ben a lot too. That's the problem. I would take Luck over Brady. Either of you guys want that?
Luck over Brady. Yeah, fine. I'll take Brady.
That's tight. That's tight.
I mean, if Luck, like, the Colts get behind like 21-0 every single game, and then Luck comes in and scores like 30 DK points just throwing, like, what if one time they actually get a lead? Like, then what's going to happen?
Could be a disaster.
Yeah.
Luckily, the Colts are a stone cold disaster.
They're so bad.
How down? Exactly how down are you guys on? Are you down at all on Marvin Jones in this situation?
Yeah, I think his price has gotten to the point where he's priced pretty fairly. You know, I don't think it's any type of bargain or any type of overprice. I think it's just, it kind of is what it is in a tough matchup. So yeah, I don't really have any strong feelings about it.
So give me Odell +6 that he outscores Julio and Marvin Jones combined.
Wait, say that again?
No. I like where your head's at, but I'm not doing that. I had another fun one though here. What about Antonio? I take Antonio, and you guys can take any 2 receivers you want. So you can have your Odell Beckham and someone else, and whoever has the highest scoring receiver wins. So you have 2 chances to beat Antonio.
All right.
So you could take AJ Green and Odell Beckham, and just one of those guys has to beat him.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do it with AJ Green, and if we're are we including Monday? If we're including
yeah, I don't like Mike Evans. No Monday. I don't want Mike Evans.
No.
That's my call.
Wait. I think we should do the whole.
All right. No, it's all right. I'll take. Give me AJ Green and Jordy.
You can do the whole slate. I just don't want to be rooting against one of my. No,
I like
Mike Evans.
I think the way. I mean, it's so early in the week. I don't know what's going to happen with the Giants secondary, but like they were playing without Rogers Cromartie, basically without Eli Apple, and like if that happens again, like Jordy is. I mean, I don't think Janoris Jenkins can really handle Jordy at all. So yeah, Jordy off of a bye too. Give me Jordy and AJ Green.
All right, give me Odell and Brandon Marshall.
Okay, Matt, you went on this one?
Yeah, I do. I think.
All right.
Will you let me take? Let me see here. I can take Monday Night Football.
Sure. I just don't want Mike Evans. You take Kelvin Benjamin.
Well, that's really enticing.
Calvin's a pretty good play, man.
Mike Evans. I'll take Mike Evans versus some other guys here in a second if you guys want that. I want to be on the Mike Evans train.
Okay, so I will do. Yeah, I think I'm going to do AJ Green and we're doing DK, right?
Yep.
Okay. God, that really makes it hard. I'm not going to do it because I actually don't feel strongly enough in the odds of 2 guys, 1 and 2 guys doing better than Antonio Brown.
I think it's pretty fair. I think that might actually be these guys, but
I mean, I think it's fair. I just can't think of the second guy that I feel strongly enough about.
Yeah, take Edelman. That's what I was thinking about.
I don't feel strongly enough about Edelman. I don't about the touchdowns. I don't know if I feel strongly enough about the touchdowns.
Hey, what about this? I'll take Mike Evans versus your Jarvis Landry over there.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. I'll take that. I'll take that. We're going for 8, 130 and a touchdown.
And we're doing DraftKings, which is good for you too. DraftKings sets up well for you with Jarvis.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Adam, you don't like Carson Wentz. Like give us one Carson Wentz something.
Yeah, I mean, under 2.5 total touchdowns.
Oh, please.
I'm just setting a line. I'm just throwing something out there.
2.5.
Fine, I'll give you 2. If it lands on 2, it's a push.
No wonder he's 10-6. He just throws these out there. People blindly say yes.
I mean, I hate to take a bet where there can be a push, but I mean, if that's the best we're going to get, if you're not going to go 1.5, then yeah, I mean, I'll take the 2.
2 touchdowns in today's NFL is like taking candy from a baby. Everybody.
Oh, please. He's not.
Everybody gets 2 touchdowns.
Oh my gosh.
Not Blaine Gabbert.
He's gone for 2 touchdowns 2 of the 3 times. He hasn't gotten to 3 one time this entire season. So he hasn't done it once, and that's what you need to win.
He's coming off a bye playing like literally the worst defense in the NFL.
Oh, yeah. I don't like it. I'm off that. All right. Anyone else at quarterback? I'll take. Or we can do one other position. Let's find some favorite plays here. Tight end. I'm down to. I want to get working into this lead that Levitan's building here.
We didn't even mention Hunter Henry and Zach Ertz, who I think are the chalk. Do you have any strong feelings about them?
I think they're both great plays.
Yeah.
I think they'll both be very chalky. Yeah. I might play both of them in a lineup on DraftKings.
Yeah, my initial cash game build has Hunter Henry in it right now. It'd be hard to get off of it. I mean, I guess it is only $200 more to get to Ertz, but my initial build has Henry in it.
All right, how about this? I'll take Broncos and Vikings D, and you can take 3 defenses.
Broncos and Vikings, and I take 3 defenses.
I mean, this is actually a fairly decent – I mean, because defensive scoring is so random, right? So, this is –
It is, and you get 3 defenses combined points.
So, I mean, who's likely to –
Okay, actually, so that's a good question. So, Peter, it's not who has the highest out of your 2 versus their –
I would love to do that, but I think I'm a big favorite there.
It's combined points.
Yeah. I would love to do the highest total. I would feel better about that, but I do combine points just to throw it out there. So I think that's slightly in your favor to take 3 defenses.
That's fine. I'll take it. Just give me it's so random. Give me the Rams.
I like that one.
Give me the Dolphins. And give me the Patriots.
Wow, Levitan that just gets it in so good. That was good picks. Love the Rams. Tavon Austin's definitely going to run one back this week.
Yeah, speaking of which, Peter, do you want to have our standard Tavon Austin?
No, I didn't take it when he scored. I'm definitely not going to take it coming back off. No chance.
He's the top receiver in my model right now.
He's 3,700. Fire him up.
Yeah, he's the top receiver in my model right now. I've never rocked
that one pass. He almost had a 40, 50-yard catch this last week, a downfield attempt, and it just barely hit the ground.
I've never once rostered him, so maybe I should just stand strong. I've never done it one time.
Yeah, no.
No, I'm rostering him. I'm rostering him with Rams D. That's what it makes me nervous about Adam's call. Gonna have to hedge that. Gonna have to get a lot of exposure.
Brandon Marshall is number 1 receiver in my model right now.
Like that.
Tavon is uncomfortably high too. We're gonna have to get that adjusted down.
Yeah, I know. I've got to do something.
Okay. Any other skill game propositions?
I'll take Enunwa over, or I want to get Bryce because Bryce is my boy. If Dez doesn't play, I'll take Bryce versus any receiver under 5K. And Bryce is only 3,500. I mean, do you guys realize how good Bryce is?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take that.
I'll take Tyrell Williams.
Okay.
Yeah,
this is only if Dez doesn't play.
Okay, I'll take. I was looking at. I think Tyrell Williams is a really good call. That's what initially caught my eye. All right, I'll do the same thing. I'll take Tyrell. We'll be on that one together, man.
There we go.
I can't believe you guys didn't take Enunwa. I think Enunwa's a better play than Tyrell.
That total, man. I don't know. Tyrell gets a lot of looks too.
Enunwa was among the league leaders in targets.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, I'm going to take that. I'm going to do John Brown.
Okay.
For this Thursday game? Yep.
You realize his quarterback might be Drew Stanton.
I like
he likes the way he dances. Yeah, you like the way he dances. He's got a nice shimmy.
I think there's the possibility that maybe Drew Stanton actually, not that he's good for John Brown, but that he's just whatever, I'm out here. This is my only game all season, just throwing it deep. I don't know. But I don't know.
That's the best analysis ever.
I feel good about John Brown. I want to have little John Brown skill game prop at some point.
I love John Brown.
And I think this is going to be like the only time I have the opportunity to get it.
He passed the eye test last week. He looked explosive and fast again.
Oh,
yeah. 34 targets for Tyrell, which is quite a bit. I want to see. I would have to look into his red zone targets. And Noon was up there. I know he is more than him, but I think
Noon has 32, right?
Tyrell is 34 on the year.
Yeah.
How many does the Noon one have?
I think he has 32.
Yeah, but now obviously the role is different with Decker out. So
right.
He had 7 targets last week, 7 and 11 before. Yeah, so I think it's close.
I like it.
Okay. Any others? I mean, I can give some more Drew Stanton hot takes.
What did that Blaine Gabbert? You ended up losing that one, right?
Oh, it was destructive. I feel like I owe my next door neighbor.
I trolled you on our DFS Edge Pod, and people thought I was serious. I brought it up just to troll you, just to try to get Adam laughing, and I couldn't even do it with a straight face.
It was so rough. It was disgusting.
That was a great throw he had to Morris Claiborne the other day. Fantastic. I'll take whoever the Broncos quarterback is for any I guess that's not really a good choice. Damn. Is there anyone that you guys like in that like low mid fives that you take over?
Yeah.
Hoyer, Tannehill, Mariota, Dak.
Yeah, all those guys are way better. I'd take the Broncos QBs versus Tyrod Taylor and Brock Osweiler, but those are some pretty marginal options down there in the bargain bin.
I mean, more touchdown passes for the Broncos quarterback or interceptions thrown for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I'll take the over on the touchdowns for the Broncos passing game.
I mean, Fitzpatrick's good for 2, right?
Yeah, you gotta get Fitzpatrick taken there. Like, do you want him as like a top 10 quarterback with or a top 12 quarterback?
No, why have I already made? I don't know. I've already made like 15 Fitzpatrick lineups too. It's horrible. Like I hated every one of them.
How about this? I'll take Derek Carr as a top 10 quarterback.
10.
I'll do top 8. My lucky number. You guys gotta take that.
All right, I'll take that.
I'll take that. Did we all take that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, so I got Derek Carr. I just gave up some equity. Everyone jumps on it.
We were waiting. I mean, we knew you'd move. Okay.
What else? What else do we want to get in here? Well, I want to get one more with Levitan. I got to get a shot.
He's trying to out-volume me.
I am. I'm trying to get in there. Levitan, throw one more thing out there that you like, buddy. You're so far ahead on the leaderboard.
All right. You want to do Devontae Parker over under half a touchdown?
No, I like Devontae Parker. I'm with you. My first cash game build had Tannehill.
All right. Do you want to do
I'll take someone versus
I'll take Odell Beckham under 100 yards.
Definitely want the under on that. I don't like Odell. I'll take Mike Evans. I would take what about this? Here's one. I'll take Mike Evans versus Odell if you want it.
I don't want anything to do with Odell. I hate that dude.
I know. I'm talking to Matt. Matt, you want that one, right?
Oh, man.
No. I mean,
come on. You got to take that. Odell Beckham? You're not going to take your boy?
Well, I mean, Mike Evans is getting 17 targets a game. I mean, like
against Green Bay.
I mean, I know
that he's projected right now for.
I don't
feel, a point more.
I do not feel comfortable with that one. Is the only problem.
Oh wow! So this is where the Odell love has really come down to. All right, my last one. I'm just really trying to push here with Adam. We got to have one more fun one here. I'll take.
How about Julian Edelman versus Manny Sanders?
No, I like Julian Edelman too much for that.
How about Manny Sanders versus Jarvis Landry?
Come on, Adam, you're just trying to like.
They're the same price. They're the same price.
Yeah, and one of them's a much better play. One's a tournament play. That's why it's bold, bro. I'm not going to take the bold call versus the chalk. Who do you think I am?
All right.
All right. How about I'll take Mike Evans versus Jordy Nelson?
I mean, I don't know why you think I have a problem with Mike Evans. I had in 4 p.m. only last week. I used Mike Evans in my lineup against the Broncos. Like I love Mike Evans.
Yeah, all right, so you're on the same problem that I was having before. I'll take Crabtree or Cooper versus someone in that range if you want, like versus Jarvis Landry if you want that.
All right, I'll take Landry over. I'll take Landry over Cooper.
Okay, we'll do that. Last one.
I like that one.
Emmanuel Sanders is like the same prop, essentially.
All right, final one, Landry over Cooper. I mean, my list is full of skill game props. There's no way I'm gonna have to listen to the episode again just to make sure I got all this right.
Yeah, it's like not even 6-packs now. It's like just like half kegs, like pony kegs, like actual kegs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shipping giant things of beer across state lines or whatever. I'm sure that's illegal, but
okay, guys, thanks for being on the show. We've been speaking with Matt Brown, Adam Levitan, and Peter Jennings on Twitter at MattBrownM2, Adam Levitan, and CSURAM88. You can follow me on Twitter at MattFTOracle. I'm Matthew Freedman, and this has been the Daily Fantasy Flex podcast for Week 5. If you like the show, please rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Podbean. Also, you can contact us via email, podcast@fantasylabs.com. Let us know what you think. Follow us on Twitter at FantasyLabsPods, and also be sure to check out our NFL dashboard with game previews and positional breakdowns out on Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck, and we will see you guys next week.